Hello friends, welcome to Crack Gate CSE, and in this series of database today we'll be understanding asset properties. So these asset properties are very important as far as the transaction is concerned, and this particular topic is very helpful in scoring good marks for any competitive exam because there are numerous questions that can be formed from this particular topic. I'll be explaining this particular topic in as detailed manner as possible, because of which it may take up to 2 to 3 videos, right? So please have patience, and I'm sure that once you are done with these videos you will be having a complete knowledge about these asset properties. So before starting, I would like to request you all, if you have not subscribed the channel, please subscribe the channel and make sure you press the bell icon so that you can get an update whenever I'm uploading any new videos. And please like the video if you find it useful, and share your feedback in the comments because your comments are really motivating. Your comments motivate me so that I can work more hard and bring more videos to you. Now let's start with the asset properties. So before moving on to the asset properties, let's have a quick revision. So we know that a transaction is an atomic unit of work. We treat a transaction as a single task, right, in which we either access or to modify the database or its content. So the transaction access the data using read and write operation that I discussed in the previous videos. Now because of this read and write operations, several operations are conducted on a concurrent basis, because of which there may be some violations for the integrity. So these asset properties preserves the integrity. Integrity means correctness. So these asset properties ensures the correctness. So whatever the transaction we are doing should satisfy the asset properties. What are those asset properties? See, this is the abbreviated form of the asset properties. I just adjusted it in a random sequence because of some reasons. So A stands for atomicity, C stands for consistency, I stands for isolation, and D stands for durability. So these asset properties should be satisfied by a transaction. So why I write it like this? See, this atomicity, durability, and isolation, for these the DBMS is responsible. DBMS is responsible for atomicity, durability, and isolation, and for this consistency user is responsible, right? So this is why I just adjusted in such sequence, right? Now there is one important thing is that two components of database management system used for the transaction management. One is the recovery manager and another one is the concurrency controller. So what is the task of the recovery manager? This atomicity and durability is maintained by, sorry, this spelling is wrong, so it is maintained by recovery manager, right? And this isolation is maintained by the concurrency controller. So this atomicity and durability is maintained by recovery manager, this isolation is maintained by concurrency controller, and this consistency is maintained by the end user. And this user may be a database administrator or a database developer. So it is developer, right? So the two components which are used in a transaction is recovery manager and concurrency controller. The task of recovery manager is to maintain the atomicity and durability. The task of concurrency controller is to maintain the isolation, and the task of the user, which is a database administrator or a database developer, is to maintain the consistency. Now let's understand all of these properties one by one. So in this particular video I'll be discussing atomicity property along with some important terminologies. So atomicity is property which says that either you should commit or you should roll back. That means either the transaction should execute all the operations including the commit operation, or none of the operation by the time of the transaction termination. So what is the meaning? Either all operation will be completed or executed, and if all operations are not able to be executed, then none of the operation will be executed, right? So what is the meaning of this? You will understand as the video progress. So first try to understand this first example where we are having a transaction T1 in which we have to transfer 500 rupees from account A to account B. So first what we will be doing is we will be reading the balance in A, whether we have 500 rupees in A or not, because let us say that A is not having 500 rupees, then it is not possible to transfer the 500 rupees from account number A to account of B, right? So first I am reading A. If it is having a balance of minimum 500 rupees, I am deducting that balance from account A and updating the balance of A. After that we have to send that 500 rupees into account B. So we have deducted from account A, now we have to add it into the account B. So again I am reading the account balance of B, then I am adding 500 to it and updating the balance. So how this is working? See, we are reading A, it is having 1000 rupees, subtracting 500, then the remaining balance is 500. Now the balance is 500 and we have updated A. Now we are reading B as 100 and we have to add 500 to it. So 100 plus 500 will be 600. So the updated balance will be 600 and we write it. Once this is commit, that means the transaction completed successfully. Right? But there can be a scenario, let's say that after doing all of these 4 steps, we got a failure. That means after updating the write of A as 500, we got a failure. And if we got a failure after write of A or after read of B, then the balance in this will be 500. That means the balance is deducted from this account and the balance of B is 100 rupees. That means it has not received the balance yet. So this should not be the case with the atomicity. Either all the operations including commit has to be executed or none of the operation. Let's say if there is any failure, then what will happen is this 500 rupees will go back into this same account. The same thing happens when we are withdrawing any amount from the ATM. Let's say that you are requested to withdraw 500 rupees and that has been deducted from your account, but you haven't received any cash. Then what happens is after 24 hours or 48 hours, the deducted balance gets credited into your account. So this is what atomicity is, right? So in this particular scenario, if there is a failure, there will be an inconsistency. So asset property ensures the correctness. So this is one property which ensures that the balance is completely updated. Now there is one important thing you should understand, that there is a dirty block. How actually the system will be realizing whether the transaction has been completed or not. So whenever we are starting for any particular transaction, if the value has been written down, for example here you can see that we have updated the value of A. So when we have updated the value of A, we will be having a flag set as 1. So this 1 shows the dirty block. So the dirty block is the block which is uncommitted block. So this is updated but it is not committed. So that's why it is a dirty block. Now we'll be moving on to here at B. So let us say that we write down the B also. So when we write down the B, it will also be treated as a dirty block because there is no commit. If there is no commit and you have updated anything into the database in a transaction, then those are referred as a dirty block. Once the commit is there, then this dirty block will be changed to the 0. The flag will be changed to 0 and will be updated as non-dirty block. right? So this dirty block will be changed to non-dirty block if the commit is there. So if there is any dirty block in the transaction, then the system got to know that yes, there is some issue with the transaction, so we have to roll back, right? Then it resets the transaction to the initial value or the old values. So this is how the system knows about the completed transaction or not. Now who handles this dirty block? What is the task, how it can get updated, right? So now the recovery manager, whenever we are getting any failure, the rollback needs to be performed. Who performed that rollback? Recovery manager. Recovery manager is the component which is responsible to roll back the transaction if there is any failure before the commit operation. So here you can see that we are getting a failure before the commit operation. So recovery manager will perform the rollback and reset the value to the initial value, which is 1000 and 100. Right? Now what is rollback? Rollback is the undo modification. That means whatever the modifications has been made in the particular database will be undo. So we'll be resetting the value to the old values. That is known as rollback. So undo modifications of database in case of transaction failure. This is the rollback. So I hope you got an idea about what is commit and what is rollback. So this is very frequent terms we will be using from now onwards. Now how this rollback or the recovery manager got to know that what are the previous values that we have updated? We have to roll back to the initial value, but for that we have to store those initial value at some place, right? Because if we do not store the initial value, we will not be able to reset the values to the old values. So these old values will be taken from this transaction log. So the transaction log is a file which is maintained by the recovery manager in the disk to store all the activities of each transaction. So whatever the activities has been performed in a transaction, that is stored in a file. That file is known as a transaction log. So let me show you that how that transaction log would be, so that you can understand it in a easy way. Now see that here I am having the transaction log of this T1 transaction. So here the T1 begins, how it saves, T1 begins and T1 reads the A. So T1 reads the A, and what T1 reads is the 1000 initial balance. Then T1 write the A, and change the value from 1000 to 500. Here we have changed the value from 1000 to 500 as we have deducted 500 rupees from the account A. Then we read B, which is 100. Then we read B, which is 100. Then we updated the B and added 500 rupees to it. So from 100 we changed it to 600, and then it is committed, right? So from here we can know that what is the initial value. So the initial values will be 1000 and 100, and we have updated from 1000 to 500, from 100 to 600. So this transaction log helps the system or the database or the recovery manager component to roll back to the initial values, right? Now there is one important thing, that what is redo operation and what is undo operation. What is the meaning of redo and undo? There was a term like undo modification. So what is the meaning of undo and redo? So the redo operation is all the changes because of commit. So whatever the changes we are making to a system is known as whatever the changes we are making in a system because of this commit comes as the redo operation. So redo operation is required whenever any commit state is there, and this undo operation is required whenever any rollback state is there. So what we have to do in the redo operation? We have to change the dirty block to non-dirty block. So when a commit was there, we changed these dirty blocks. Earlier these values was 1 and we changed it to 0. That means the dirty block is changed to non-dirty blocks, right? After that, we clean the entry of transaction. So we'll be cleaning the entry of these transaction, and then we'll be updating the new values in the database file. So these two steps completely depends on the algorithm. There may be a case that first we are updating the new values in the database file, then we are cleaning the log entries of the transaction. The second option make much sense, but it completely depends on the algorithm. So first we'll be changing the dirty block to non-dirty block, then we'll be updating the new values in the database. So we updated 500 and 600. Then we have to clean the log entries like this entry. Then we have to clean this entry, because once it is updated, there is no requirement to save this complete log, right? And undo operation is the changes because of the rollback. If there is a rollback, for example, consider this situation where a failure is there. So if a failure is there, then we have to roll back. So in rollback, what are the steps we have to do? We have to perform the undo operation. In the undo operation, we have to revert back the updation of database to old values. These old values are available in the transaction log. After updating the old values, we have to convert the dirty block to non-dirty block, because when once the database is reset, we have to change the dirty block to non-dirty block. And once this dirty block is changed, we have to clean the log entries, because whatever the task is there of the transaction log has been completed. So this redo and undo operations are for commit and rollback. Now there is one important thing is checkpoint. So what is a checkpoint? A checkpoint is issued by the database, or you can say the database engine, in regular interval of time. So there is a multiple slot, like after 5 minutes there will be a checkpoint, or after 15 minutes there will be a checkpoint. Like in games we have a checkpoint where the previous progress is stored. So the same work is here as well. So this checkpoint utilized for removing all the previous transaction logs, because let's say there are multiple transaction T1, T2, T3, T4 and so on. So once we are having a checkpoint, so whatever the transaction we are having above that particular checkpoint will be released. How? We'll see that in this particular example. We perform the redo operation for the committed transaction. I told you that if it is committed, then we will be performing the redo operation, and if it is failure, then we have to perform the undo operation till previous checkpoint, right? We are not supposed to perform the undo or redo for the entire list of transaction. We have to perform the redo or undo operation until the previous checkpoint. Let us consider this example. Here we are having multiple checkpoints at 900, 905, 9010 and at 915 after this, right? So the first checkpoint, whatever has been completed above the checkpoint has been handled by that particular checkpoint. So after this we are having T1 and T2. So this T1 and T2 has been committed. So if they has been committed, the redo operation will be performed at this checkpoint, because this checkpoint stores the progress. So the redo operation of T1 and T2 will be completed, right? Again, this T3 and T4, after this particular checkpoint, T3 and T4 has been committed. So when we are at this particular checkpoint, the redo operation will be performed for T3 and T4, not for T1 and T2. So this is what the meaning of redo, that perform redo for committed transaction until previous checkpoint, because the redo for T1 and T2 is already committed or completed at the previous checkpoint. So whatever the transaction we are completing after this particular checkpoint has to be completed in the next checkpoint. After this redo of T3 and T4, we are having T5 and T6. Because this T5 and T6 has been committed, we have to perform the redo operation, but there is one issue, that there is no checkpoint. So before that checkpoint, a system failure or a power failure has been happened. These power failure can be system crash or any other issue. So if there is any some issue, we have to perform the crash recovery. So I am considering that here the situation is system crash. So even if the system is crashed, because this T5 and T6 are committed, we have to perform the redo operation. But this redo operation will be performed after the crash recovery. We cannot perform the redo operation till now because there is no checkpoint. So once the system crash or the crash recovery is done, we will be performing the T5 and T6. So what is the crash, what we do in the crash recovery? All committed transaction from crash point to previous point. So these two are the committed transaction from crash point to previous point will perform redo. So these will perform redo. This is what crash recovery says. And all uncommitted transaction change their state to rollback and perform undo. Let's say that apart from T5 and T6 there is a transaction T7 which is not committed. So if it is not committed, it will be in a rollback state, and these two are committed, so these will be in a redo operation. These will do the redo operation and T7 will do the undo operation. Right? Now if you understood all of these things, there is one important question that you should do. So please pause your video and try to solve this by your own. So if you are able to solve this question by your own, that means you understood each and everything discussed in this particular video. And in case if you are not able to do so, don't worry, I am just about to explain this, that how exactly it is working. So what the question says that consider the following transaction log file. So the transaction log file is given. This is the transaction log file, and in the end we are having a system crash. So it is asking that what happens because of the system crash. So some options are T3 and T3 and T4 will redo, and T1 and T2 will undo. So now let's try to understand that. I will be using a policy of eliminating out the options. So I will be going with the options and checking whether they are right or wrong. So in first they are saying that T3 and T4 will perform redo. So here you can see that this T3 has been committed, and if it is committed, then at the checkpoint this redo of T3 is done. So T3 redo will not happen at the system crash because the T3 redo has already been completed at this particular checkpoint. So this is the wrong option, right? B is T4 redo and T1 T2 undo. So here you can see that this is T4, it has been committed, and after commit if there is any checkpoint then it will be redo, and if there is no commit then at system crash we will be applying the crash recovery, and at the time of crash recovery T4 redo will happen. So T4 redo is the right one. Now we have to check whether T1 T2 undo will happen or not. So T1 is here. Now you have to check whether T1 is committed or not. So here you can see that T1 is not committed because only T3 and T4 is committed. T2 is also not committed. This is T2. So T1 is and T2 is not committed, and if T1 and T2 is not committed then they will go into a rollback state and the undo operation will be executed for T1 and T2. So this seems to be the right option. Now let's check the other as well. Here T3 redo. So T3 redo will not happen because it is already happened at the checkpoint. So this is also wrong, and all transactions should perform undo. This is also wrong because T3 has been committed and T4 has been committed, right? So all transactions will not perform the undo operation. So B is the right option, right? See how easy it is. So the bigger is the question, the simpler is the solution. So there is simple philosophy. Just try to read that question in a concentrated way, focus on that question, that what they are asking, because in a lengthy question the solutions are generally very small, but they will try to trap you with some variables or the parameters. Now let's have a quick revision. So when we are beginning the execution, we will be in the active state, and if all the read and write operations are executed successfully, it will be in partially committed because it is waiting for the commit operation, and when the commit operation is there, it is committed, and if it is committed, we will perform the redo and the transaction will be terminated. If we are in the active state and it failed, it will go into the rollback, because in failed state there might be some scene that some read and write operations are completed and some read and write operations are left. So it will move on to the rollback state, and when it is in rollback state, we will be performing the undo operation and terminating the state. And if it is partially committed, that means all the read and write operations are done and it is waiting for the commit operation, but instead of commit operation failed, then it will land into the rollback state, and finally after performing the undo operation, it will be terminated. So this is the final summary of the atomicity property. Right now in the upcoming videos we will be understanding the other properties as well. So I told you that it will take some time, but yes, I will be giving you a complete discussion, complete explanation, so that you can grab each and every single detail of this asset properties. So I hope you find it useful. If yes, please like the video and share your comments in the feedback, and if you are new on our channel, please subscribe us. And in case if you are having any query, any doubt, you can ask me in the comments, and also you can ask me on the Instagram or Facebook. The link of the Instagram, Facebook and other social handles are available in the description, and for the other playlist also you can check the description. Thank you very much for your precious time. Have a great day.